Dear learners, till now in part 1, we were looking at the question of the backdrop and context of environmental justice as an environmental perspective. In this part, we will try to understand what the components and principles underlying environmental justice are. And these components are the following. First, and most importantly, the question of distributive equity, which is the distribution of environmental benefits and burdens. Both environmental bads and environmental goods should be equally divided amongst different sections or groups of the people. All people should have equitable access to both environmental resources and equal protection from locally unwanted land uses or LULUs. Now, what is important to note here is that the environmental justice movement is not just saying that the environmentally bad facilities or features should not be there in communities or neighborhoods of African American people, other racial minorities or the poor. They are saying that, but they are also saying that even environmental goods or environmental resources should be equally distributed. Now, as we already have discussed, it is a common feature in numbers of societies that environmentally bad features or LULUs are located in communities or neighborhoods of those living on the margin, of the poor and the marginalized. But it is also a fact that environmental resources like clean breathing spaces, like green urban spaces, also tend to be disproportionately concentrated in areas occupied by the rich and by the elite. Environmental justice movement is questioning this as well. So both the environmentally harmful things and the environmentally beneficial things, both burdens and benefits must be equitably distributed across different sections of the population. The second principle or second component is the equal implementation of the laws. Distributive equality can only be ensured if environmental, municipal, zoning laws, rules and regulations are implemented uniformly across all situations and contexts. This applies both to relations within and between nations. Now, clearly, if equity in terms of distribution of environmental bads and goods is to happen, this has to be ensured by the governance mechanism. And first and foremost, this can happen only if you guarantee that the environmental rules and regulations which are there are implemented without bias, without prejudice, uniformly across all places and all segments of society. And in today's globalized world, it is also important to point out that when we say uniformity, we are not just talking about one particular society and segments within that society. We are also talking about different countries of the world. We are also saying that the same standards of environmental protection, of environmental sensitivity, of environmental regulation must attach to different parts of the globe. It should not be that one company, in order to violate the environmental regulations of one country, moves to another country and violates regulations there with abandon. There should be parity both within a country and across countries. Third is the question of recognition. Now, this is a fairly important point and it deserves some attention. Recognition refers to the underlying relations of power between communities, groups, classes, genders, and says that this needs to be addressed if equity is to be addressed. The basic reason for this is that environmental injustice often mirrors the existing injustices and inequities in society. For example, if tribal groups remain marginalized in society, they will continue to bear a disproportionate share of social burdens, including environmental ones. Now, obviously, like we've seen, the question of distribution is right at the center of environmental injustice. The question of uniform application of laws is pivotal to environmental justice as a paradigm. But what we need to do is to go beyond the question of distribution and ask why such skewed distributions, why such discriminatory distributions arise in the first place. And the moment we ask ourselves this question, we will have to look at the kind of inegalitarian, unjust structures and relations of power which exist in society. So, for instance, in the United States, where the question of environmental justice arose in the 1980s for the first time, if racial inequality, racial discrimination is not removed, it is highly unlikely that uniform application of environmental safeguards will be implemented. Is it not? The final component, and a very important component, is the question of procedural justice. And this question can in turn be broken up into several sub-components or sub-principles. What are they? First, the requirement of informed consent. Consent of the local community should be secured after providing it with complete information of the nature, scale, and implications of the project. The right to information, therefore, is also a part of the requirement of informed consent. Now, this point is particularly important in today's day, where technologies which have the potential of causing environmental damage and therefore damage to local communities have become so complicated that sometimes it can be very easy for the people responsible for the project to keep people in the dark, particularly local communities in the dark, about the implications of the project. This principle tells us that full and final information, complete information about the full implications of the project must be provided to the local community. It is only if such information is provided that consent of the community will become a meaningful one. Therefore, informed consent, consent based on complete information, is a very important component of participatory or procedural justice. The second is the right to a hearing. All stakeholders should have the right to publicly express grievances, complaints, and apprehensions across multiple public fora. This should be actively facilitated by the state and other relevant agencies. Through the entire project and its aftermath, opportunities have to be provided, hearings have to be provided, fora have to be provided for people, particularly those affected, to come forward, the local community to come forward and openly express the different ways in which they have been affected. Without this, the question of justice would remain an elusive one. In many cases, multiple such hearings may be required in order for the full implications of the project on the local community to emerge in a proper and adequate way. Participation across stages. The local community and stakeholders need to be included in decision-making processes through different stages of the project, from planning to implementation to monitoring and evaluation. Typically, in many cases where environmental injustice is involved, you would find that the local community, the local stakeholders would be brought into the process only in certain stages. This component or principle of environmental justice says that it is at each of the stages, planning to implementation to monitoring and evaluation, that the people and their voice needs to be heard. And finally, the question of political empowerment. The various components of procedural justice can be met only if the overall political marginalization of certain groups is not ended. This needs to be ensured through both representation of these groups at different levels of governance, as also providing these groups with substantial opportunity to put forward these views in vital decision-making processes. Basically, this means that if your political structure is an unjust one, if your political structure is an undemocratic one, which leaves aside, which does not give a voice to different kinds of groups, different kinds of communities living on the margin, living on the periphery of society, then you will not be able to ensure environmental justice. Therefore, environmental justice requires a thorough restructuring of your political structure, which ensures that these groups in general have a political voice. In summary, therefore, we find that there are a number of components, a number of requirements which must be fulfilled if environmental justice is to be achieved. Central to all these requirements is the basic idea that those communities, which are on the margin of society, that those communities which are discriminated against, which are oppressed, we need to give a voice, we need to give a hearing to these communities. If we do not do so, then the discrimination against them, which ensures that environmental bads, that environmentally harmful facilities are located in places where tribals live, are located where in places where minorities live, we will allow this process to continue.